So the book of Gray is quite clear as well in explaining qualitative data analysis, and I like the way they explained it. Although I do find that they had a bit more focus on the deductive and inductive coding, so the two extremes. I'll explain them a few better in detail. And we will be mostly doing a combination of both. So these steps that I'll go through here, these 6 steps, reflect what is written in Gray, but I've also changed some of them a little bit to fit a bit more with the type of research that you are doing. So the first step is about very simple transcribing the data. And one of the benefits of qualitative research is that you can already start analyzing once the first interviews are done. And it's actually even necessary to do that, because transcribing your first interview, looking at the codes, also gives you some input to change perhaps your interview guide. Based on the first interview, you get a sense of feeling of what worked, what didn't work, what probing questions I can include in my interview guide now, in order to ensure that the following interviews are more aligned to the first one. So it's about transcribing the data, the interviews, but also if you make field notes, maybe some of you make not in AGP, but later on if you're doing ethnographic study, or if you're doing a focus group discussion, where you will have an observer who wants to see the interaction between the group, those things are field notes, which are quite relevant later to interpret the data. Those things need to be transcribed as well, made digitally. Then you continue with collecting the data, but also you code the data. So you don't wait till the 10th interview, your final interview is done, to code the data. You code the data already after the first interview, because by coding that data, you also realize, by reading the data, you realize what questions you're missing, but by coding the data, you get a bit more feeling of the different theoretical concepts and how they are linked, and what might be missing. Things that you cannot see when you just read the interview, so you need those codings. And it also helps a lot with becoming familiar with your data. If you're transcribing it yourself, so you're listening to it, you really become way more familiar with your data. And as a researcher, if you have spent quite a lot of time on making the conceptual framework, for instance, you'll notice that during the process of transcribing and listening to the interviews, you're making more and more links. And there are cases where it's unable for you to transcribe the data because, for instance, the interviews have been done in a native language. Let's say if you're doing an internship in a foreign country where they have a different language, then you are dependent on the translation of the interviews. And in other cases, you can have very big projects with enough money to have a translation company, or how do you say that? They have those transcribing companies that you then can pay that can transcribe your data. But you will become less familiar with the data. So I actually think it's an added benefit if you transcribe the data yourself. It is really boring, I know that. But you really grasp your data then. So then the next thing is to read. I definitely, even before step 2, it's not really, but be flexible to it, because new codes will emerge, new relationships will develop, and those are the things that you will be exploring. Let's look at this piece of text before we go to the break. Again, a small exercise. We did this in the beginning with the office supplies, but now you know a little bit more about open coding and axial coding. Try to make sense of this small piece of text individually, and then again discuss it with your colleague. Okay. Who wants to share their findings? Anyone? Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, you can kind of divide it into pregnancy-related stuff, stuff related to diabetes, and also, yeah, symptoms and emotions, I guess. And then symptoms can be symptoms of pregnancy and yeah, also most of diabetes, but oh no, that's not really in there. But yeah, that would be possible.
Diabetes, and you said symptoms of pregnancy?
Pregnancy as well.
How did you came up with these codes, or?
Yeah, just reading the text and what it's about, and then these are kind of the main themes you see in the text.
Yeah. Do you notice any difference between open or actual coding? Or did you have that in mind when you were coding, or when you were trying to make sense of this chunk of text?
No, more intuitively, I guess.
Intuitively. Yeah. That's possible. Who had something else? I'll come to you in a few. You in the back.
That she's scared.
Scared?
Concerned.
Scared, concerned, worried. Yeah? Is this the open coding or actual coding you think?
Oh, I don't know. Sorry.
Who has an idea of these things, these three? Because she had a different view on the... You were looking more at, indeed, the different pieces of text, something about pregnancy-related stuff, diabetes, but also symptoms. And I find you are more about the emotions and the experiences emotionally that the woman was feeling. Correct? Can we name this, give it one name, these three concepts?
Sorry?
Can we give it one name, you think, these three concepts? If we should take it to one level more abstract.
Perception.
Perceptions?
Emotions.
You're saying emotions? And she here in the front says they're all like negative worries and emotions. Who thinks perceptions is a good, more general, abstract code for these three? Who thinks emotions is more better? Okay. I tend to agree a bit more with this. They're all perceptions indeed of that woman, that pregnant woman, but these three specific things have quite some characteristics and dimensions that are probably all related to emotions. And you're saying?
We clustered those like scared and concerned, worried into one sort of.
Let's hear yours.
Yeah.
What were your...
Into one like worry category.
Yeah, and what was that?
All these concepts that relate to worry.
Oh, you named it worries instead of emotions.
Yeah, or like, I think it should be something that's not a negative emotion. Right? Because it's not like happiness about.
Worries. Okay, she says these three, they're indeed emotions, but I prefer to call them worries or a bit negative emotions. Who disagrees with that? Why?
Because it's a worry doesn't have to be negative, right?
A worry doesn't have to be negative. It's a positive approach to life. Do you also see positive emotions?
She was happy about having a baby and her pregnancy.
She was happy about having a baby and her pregnancy. So, I think there are two. Sorry?
We could make another category.
Yeah, we could make that another category. True. So if we're talking about emotions, yes, there are many emotions in here. Some are related to worry, some are a bit more negative, but there are also positive emotions. But as you can see, three different people, three different answers. Not necessarily that they are all wrong. I think they are even all right in their own way, in their own justification. However, if you guys were in the same group and have been analyzing 3 different transcripts for the same results, I think you guys should have agreed a bit more on the concepts and how you do the code guide. Okay, this is a small example. Today in the working group session, you will get a bit more chance to practice with open coding, actual coding, deductive versus inductive coding. That's the purpose of this working group session today. For you to get a bit more feeling about it and to have those experienced coaches help you through it. Shall we take a small break? Yeah? Okay.